All right, calling to order the Zero Waste Subcommittee meeting at 2 p.m. on October 27th. For roll call, we have Commissioner Ariola, Commissioner Sacco, and Chair Jesus Santos. Commissioner Ward is absent right now, but will be joining us in a few minutes. Madam Clerk, first item.
So is the adoption of the agenda.
Is there any motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. So moved.
Is that, I see a motion, is that a second? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Sacco and a second by Commissioner Ariola to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So we kind of have to go through just for the recording purposes to do the roll call vote. I know it's a short list. Okay. It just for the recording, it just helps make it clear. Commissioner Ward is absent. Commissioner Ariola?
Aye.
Commissioner Sacco?
Aye.
And Chair Jesus Santos?
Aye. All right, next item is approval of the minutes. Is there any discussion or motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion to second to approve the minutes. Is there any public comment on this item?
I don't see anybody in the attendee list as for the public being able to comment, but let's give a moment. If anyone wants to call in, I believe communications has the number on the screen. So if you just call the number and enter the meeting ID, and then you can dial *9 to raise your hand. I don't see anyone coming in.
Could you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Sorry, Commissioner Sacco?
Aye.
Commissioner Ariola?
Aye.
And Chair Jesus Santos?
Aye. Motion passes 3-0 with Commissioner Ward absent. All right, first item on the agenda, Madam Clerk.
Yes, that is item 200449, discussion of construction and demolition waste in Gainesville, with a recommendation that the Zero Waste Subcommittee hear staff presentation and provide direction as appropriate.
All right, Mr. Mann or Himbach, who's taking the lead on this one?
Michael's taking the lead. Looks like he's already sharing a screen.
All right. You're on mute, Mr. Himbach.
I got the screen up, I didn't get the mute off, so, 50-50. Good afternoon, guys. Just to take a look at construction and demolition here in Alachua County and Gainesville today, and get some feedback from the committee and kind of give us some direction of which way to go. So I'm going to start off with just a chart of what the EPA says is in construction and demolition debris. As you can see, it's mostly concrete. Obviously, that's going to change from project to project. A smaller project would likely have less concrete, maybe more wood, depends on the markets, depends on the age of the building. Asphalt concrete, which is essentially your asphalt and things like that, makes up the second largest portion of that waste stream. And here's another EPA analysis of where that or when that debris is generated. And as you can see, that most of it occurs during the demolition period. Some drywall and some wood and plaster is the main portion of the construction part. So those are just kind of cutaways and throwaways that end up in the dumpster. So when we look at the Florida Department of Environmental Protection data, we see that it's a little strange here. While we see very high amounts of construction and demolition debris recycled, again, as high as 90% there in 2019. We also see a big drop off in 2019 or 2018, and then 2019 we see a big drop off. So When it comes to the data that we are able to access and gather, we do get some questions as to how effective the C&D recycling is going on here in Gainesville. And part of that comes from DEP C&D reports. So unlike a lot of the other municipal waste facilities where the information is available through other public records means, a lot of times with the C&D, it is not. So a lot of it is related to the operation of a facility that isn't necessarily permitted as a solid waste facility, and they don't have to report publicly what they're recycling, though they do report it to DEP, and that remains exempt from public records. And then also that includes numbers of materials that routinely never went to a landfill, such as asphalt. And also, if you look back at the materials that they're talking about, you can see that things like cardboard and plastics are not included in that list. So they don't, even though that material is generated on site, it doesn't make this list, and that would also bring down the recycling percentages. So I'll just give you a quick overview of kind of how construction demolition debris is handled here in Gainesville. The city issues on, like with garbage, issues non-exclusive commercial franchises. Currently, there are 8 companies servicing the city. That includes the 4 companies that also collect MSW, and there's 4 additional companies that deal exclusively in C&D materials. Concrete recycling. So obviously, we saw that concrete is the main portion of the waste stream. And here in town, we're very fortunate. Florida Concrete is an active player in that. They are, as far as we can tell, the #1 facility in town that does this. They accept source separate concrete from construction projects. They also have the capability of processing on site. So a lot of times they'll go in and they'll be the ones knocking down the building, separating the concrete and steel and things like that. And then they use that material that goes right back into the community for rock products. The city's a customer for some street materials and things like that. And then there's also a second company, Tropical Recycling. They're much smaller, and they primarily deal with clients that they're already serving with their hauling business. Now, so the material that doesn't get recycled tends to find its way to 2 facilities. Watson C&D landfill down towards the Levy County line, south of the city's name I can't remember, and the Florence C&D landfill, which is just outside of city limits. Watson, so both of these facilities do some recycling, and their information is public. There is an FDEP annual report that they're required to submit. And they basically, you can see the Watson's at 7%, Florence is at 3%. So they're basically cherry picking the material. If a load comes in and it's predominantly cardboard, they'll kick that to the side. Or if there's a lot of metal in it, they'll remove that and basically just landfill the rest. And so Watson has plenty of space out there for future landfilling. Florence, based on their FDEP reporting, has about 10 years of operation remaining.
I have a question on the previous slide. 10 years is a relatively, 10 years is a relatively kind of limited amount of time remaining. Yes. for a landfill.
Yes.
Because of the time it takes for permitting.
Right.
I remember they were putting in for expansion permitting to the county. Do you know whatever happened with that, or is that still in the process, or?
That by the way, that's off that permit request.
Okay.
There was they have like tentative approval from DEP. I think there's still some comment out there that's waiting. Some people have raised concerns and their ability to comment on that due to the COVID situation.
Yeah,
but you're absolutely right. Five years to site a landfill is probably a conservative number.
You're correct, Commissioner A. Santos. The commission has received several inquiries about wanting us to oppose the expansion of the Florence C&D landfill.
And do you know if that is a decision the county actually makes, it allows for the expansion, or is that fully done by the FDEP? Or do you all know?
I don't know.
Primarily,
Michael, you know that?
yes, primarily DEP, but there could be some zoning issues involved where the county would be involved.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to put up here, and this is something we don't have in town, but I just wanted to make everyone aware of it. And these are these construction and demolition debris material recycling facilities. I talked a little bit about the material that isn't concrete, that isn't necessarily getting recycled. What these facilities do is basically what you see there is a lot of hands sorting through material that comes from these construction sites. They have heavy line where the heavier material, floats to the bottom. The lighter material floats to the top. Some of it's mechanically pulled out. Other is obviously by hand. This particular facility is in Pompano Beach, Florida. And their FDEP report showing about 67% recycling. So those sort of facilities do exist. Obviously, we have the eco-industrial park that could house something like this. My understanding this facility costs about $5 million, but it's a Class 5 or a Hurricane 5 building. So they put a lot of money into it.
I do have a question on the MRF. I know on like solid waste, the county or the city can mandate that it be taken to a certain location. Is that the same for C&D? Could that be a like you have to call your C&D to this location?
Yeah, by state definition, that is solid waste. So there is no state exemption against that. So that could be built into a franchise, whether it's the franchise we have now with 8 haulers or something that's a little more exclusive.
And they could be mandated to take it to a MRF?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the ordinances that we looked at that's in Florida that we kind of like, has some good concepts about it, is Lee County. They set a minimum recycling rate for construction and demolition projects of 50%. The permit holder, the builder, is required to estimate the type of debris that they'll be generating on site, how that debris will be handled, and where it'll be sent. One of the key parts of it, I think, is that there's a fee or a deposit that must be put down by the builder that will be refunded if they meet the requirements of the ordinance. Deconstruction, reuse, and salvaging is encouraged. I would think that any ordinance that we enacted should also have that. There are issues like how old should the building be and things like that. So a lot of ordinances that are out there look at things like that. And I think that maybe, giving some additional percentages, if you will, for folks that do that. And you can see here in Lee County, just to kind of go back to that previous slide, they have 6 facilities in the county that they have identified that are capable of, providing at least some recycling to the construction and demolition flow. Here in Gainesville, so we have our mandatory recycling, commercial recycling ordinance. It does, mention generators of construction and demolition debris, but it only references, the typical commercial material that's out there. And I can tell you, our city inspectors do go by the construction sites, as they get towards the end of the project to try and ensure that the cardboard at least gets recycled. It's a bit of a challenge for us, and we've run into some pushback, but at least we are out there trying to capture that and enforce that portion of the ordinance. So here's some of our recommendations. Is kind of maybe use Lee County as a template. Set a minimum recycling rate. We've seen that concrete is over 60%. I would recommend something closer to 65 or 70%. Design fees that, sorry about that. The design fees that are make compliance worthwhile. We've seen a lot of these ordinances where the fees are, $1,000, $2,000, and we're a community that's developing properties that are millions of dollars in construction project cost. One of the loopholes we've kind of noticed is that the reporting is dependent completely on the permit holder. And we feel that that waste hauler should also do some reporting to the city if they're working on a project, just so that, you know, tickets don't get lost or there's some underreporting of material going to a landfill. And then, as I mentioned earlier, maybe consider some additional credit for reclamation and reuse. And that's what I got.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee? Commissioner Sacco, is that a, or no?
No.
Okay. So yeah, I think looking at it, I think there are numerous loopholes in the C&D ordinance. I've also in the past, it's been about a few years, but when I first started looking at this, I had some conversation with builders, and they weren't adverse to having an ordinance on this. I think mainly because it kind of levels the playing field. A lot of the larger kind of construction firms already do some of it. So it kind of just having it mandated is not a big thing. I think one of the things that they supported was having a deposit, so that if they follow the rules, then they get that back. If you look at I also put out a white paper last year, and it's also in the backup. I think Lee County is a good ordinance. I think it's probably the best in Florida, but it is somewhat of an older ordinance, and I think other places have surpassed it, especially kind of in the northwest portion, and seeing recycling rates of 75% and some other kind of measures. And I do think having like assessment forms where they do have to fill that out, and I think a lot of them have gotten quicker and easier, so it's not as much of a burden. But that does allow us to actually track and then see what's going on. Some other things in the white paper I'd like for us to consider would be mandating that for older properties, that they have to be kind of salvaged and deconstructed instead of just being what you see now, just a big whatever crane thing comes over, breaks it all apart, and just throws it pretty much all together. A lot of the older homes have salvageable material with brick. There's some of the old like heart pine and things like that that are still valuable and that still can be used. Great wood floors. So a lot of communities have put in deconstruction ordinances where things need to be kind of moved towards salvaging and try to find a market for those, which helps preserve kind of some of the historic houses, even though they might not be there, they're still preserved in some way, and we're still kind of keeping that around, and also reduces the a footprint of actually being able to reuse them. Another thing I'd like for us to consider is incentives for moving a home right now that is set for demolition. There are definitely, we're seeing some projects. There's some maybe the older homes that are on there and they're small, or they don't fit with the project. And right now there's a rule that I think it has to be 90 days if the building is over 50 years, that it has to be offered to the public to be able to move it. Unfortunately, I think it's very expensive to move homes, and that's the main issue. You don't really see it. I mean, I've only remembered like a couple, maybe 2 or 3 in the past like 15, 20 years that have actually been moved. Not a whole lot, and I think that's just because of the cost. So looking at incentives to keep those homes if they're moved. If you're able to move it, they can be kept. And I think there's some areas that can be looked at. We do have kind of tax incentives that we use for historic preservation. I don't know if you remember those historic preservation kind of ordinances go before us, saying that they're exempt for so many years for paying taxes. There might be other kind of incentives. I think we should look at incentives to try to be able to save those homes instead of being demolished. Those are kind of a few ideas. I think we need to move forward on an ordinance. I think we should look at Lee County, but also look at some of the other places that probably surpassed them in the past few years. Mr. Mann?
Mr. Hayes Santos, I think one of the things that we haven't covered but needs to be discussed also is we've talked about all this C&D and recycling is LEED building, getting your buildings LEED certified. And recycling, when you take a building apart, recycling it gets you a ton of points towards getting your LEED certification and goes into the whole sustainability thing. We didn't discuss that, but I think it's important that we at least put that forth for the commission.
Yeah, no, it's a great point to put forward. Commissioner Sacco.
I have a question. I know that it's just going back, and I should have asked earlier, I just wasn't sure and I was trying to find the answer. Do we have sufficient places to handle the recycling of construction demolition?
So that's a good question. So when it comes to the concrete, yeah, I think we're in good shape. It's that other material that is presented itself as a challenge. So it would either need to be source separated on site, where then it would be able to go to market, or a facility, like I mentioned, would need to be developed.
So we do have for concrete. Is
Yes.
that only pure concrete, not asphalt concrete?
Right, right.
And otherwise it would be up to the actual developer construction, whoever is building or tearing down, to sort it out themselves and figure out where to send it. Or we have to
Exactly.
build a one, what do you call it? Single flow.
Recovery facility or something like that, yeah.
Okay. For just everything where we would sort out.
Yeah, they would sort out the steel and maybe the pallets in another dumpster, things like that.
Okay.
Asphalt gets recycled in a variety of ways.
Did not know that.
Usually, a lot of the construction companies, you grind up the asphalt, you grind it up and then use it as base under the new asphalt. Saves money.
Okay. I guess in terms of building a facility, how long would that take and how much would that cost?
Well,
I
you said
can't
this, yeah, the facility I referenced was about $5 million. It probably could come in a little less than that since it was built to withstand a Category 5 hurricane. But that's, $4 million would probably be a good guess.
Could that cost be shared with the county?
Yeah, or a private investor, an investor would need a certain flow amount of waste coming through it to make it financially worthwhile. Tipping fees on these facilities tend to be just a little bit below landfill fees.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And the county in the past has discussed creating a MRF for like the kind of residential commercial recycling. I don't think those conversations have gone anywhere, but there's been discussions before. So it could be a multi-part facility too, if that's something that could be looked at. I think that's something we should explore, is what does that actually mean if you want to move forward on a MRF? Because I think that is how you get to those next levels of actually ensuring everything is being recycled. I do have a question on the complaint I get a lot is the Florida concrete recycling just south of Depot Avenue, and all of the dust that comes off of that whenever it blows. Is that under our inspection to making sure there's dust, or is there ordinances that cover that, or is that a DEP, or who handles the dust coming off of that concrete place? Because it can be significant. I mean, at times those houses on the north side are kind of white almost from it, and then also on the rail trail to the south as well.
Yeah, I can't think of why it wouldn't be the city, and they're not necessarily a permitted solid waste site. So DEP and the county DEP may or may not have some authority. I'd have to look into that.
All right. So I guess one of the directions I'd like to, for us, that we can move forward, is to have staff come back with kind of some clear options on what an ordinance would look like for a C&D portion. And I think we should try to aim for the 75%, and then kind of look at the best practices around the country. I also believe that we should have looking at a kind of a salvage ordinance for older buildings, and what could that look like for us, which I think gets to helping the historic preservation portion as well. And then also looking at incentives for getting for moving buildings to another location and being able to save those buildings from being demolished. And I think one other thing to look at would just also be what would kind of a C&D MRF look like here, and what would that be? Commissioner Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really like the idea of a salvage ordinance and some kind of benefit for moving or subsidy for moving existing homes. We have a lot of many lots. We have many homes that don't fit where they are, that might be better in a different neighborhood. And it is ridiculously expensive to move a home. So any way we could help anyone move an existing home, I think is a benefit to all of us. So I'd definitely be in support of those two things. Thanks.
I think one of the places look like on that one would be, I think one of the big costs is having to move utility lines a lot of times too, and seeing how GRU could be a part of that solution as well. Are there any questions or concerns, or are there a different direction that the committee wants to move forward than kind of what was outlined there?
I would just say that I agree with the recommendations.
Okay. All right. So I guess come back in a month. That sound good to you, Mr. Hembach?
Yeah, I think, some of the more complicated, subsidy things for moving a house might take us a little longer, but I think we can move forward with that. But that was move any home, right? Is that the feeling, or something with more historical meaning?
I would.
Yeah. Okay.
That's something to look at. I don't know.
We'll look at, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other.
I guess if you just built a home, you probably wouldn't want to move it anyway. I assume it's historical, more older homes that are moved, but.
And then just the other thing I'll just throw out that I didn't mention earlier. So just to give you a couple examples. Portland, Oregon's deconstruction ordinance is anything before 1916, and Milwaukee is 1929. So, and we could talk to folks as to what's historical here in town. That we would probably have a much, more recent age, but we'll take a look at that and see what some of the historians think is a good year.
Yeah, and I also think that kind of as we move along on that, it's something that we should bring to the Historic Preservation Board too, and get their feedback on kind of what would be a good threshold on that.
So as for coming back in a month, just a reminder that we're looking at single-use plastics in a meeting a month from now. So I don't know if there will be, I don't want to like overburden this session. So I don't know if it won't be that much. I guess I'm just bringing attention to the fact that we're already doing that topic.
Yeah, I think the goal was to try to have, or one of the goal I'd like to see is have one new topic and then have an older topic kind of come in on it, so that we can kind of keep moving things forward.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have something for you, even if it isn't the complete down nuts and bolts.
Yeah, I would say the ordinance is probably the easier part, because that's been done around the country.
Yeah. So getting some of those age and stuff down is probably more of a
I haven't really seen many programs on moving homes in my research.
No.
So. All right, I'd like to have public comment on this item.
Okay. If you're a member of the public watching from home, you should be able to see the phone number to call in with the meeting ID number on the screen. When you call in, you just need to dial *9 to raise your hand. If you just take a moment to see if I don't have any public callers in the participants list at this time. Take a moment to see if anyone calls in. Okay, I don't see anyone calling in.
All right. Seeing that, I think the staff has direction, so we'll move on to the next item.
That would be item number 200450, discussion of recent public outreach initiatives by solid waste, with the recommendation that the Zero Waste Subcommittee hear staff presentation and provide direction as appropriate.
All right, Mr. Hembach, is this you as well, or?
Yeah, that's me again. Let's see. that work? All right. You got me on there?
We can see you.
All right. I just want to take about 10 minutes here real quick to kind of talk about some of the initiatives we've begun recently, so you're all aware of that and know where we're going with some of these things. Basically, 3 things that we started. Number one is when I got here, we had this zero waste GNV.com that was mostly focused on the styrofoam ban, the plastic bag ban, and the straw ban. So what we hope to do is start to evolve that website into something bigger and better, including videos and other kinds of information. So it'll be a one-stop place where people can learn about all kinds of solid waste. The first thing that we've done is we've developed the Gainesville Recycling Resource Guide. So what that is you can type in an item and it will directly find where that item can go. It includes the basics, like if you put in newspaper, it'll tell you that you can put it in at the curb or at your multifamily facility. But it also has more hard, to place things like fluorescent bulbs and things like that. So the staff before me had spent a lot of really good time working on a PDF version of it. So what we've done is made this electronic. It's available and people can go through that and find out things. And it's a living, breathing thing, so we can add and take things off as we move forward. The other thing is we've started Facebook and Twitter pages. So Tom Strickland's on there just about every day, adding things to there. We try to keep it as broad as possible. We talk about, things maybe going on other places, and we also make it very specific. Tom's got some like specific days he does certain things. There's a Material Monday and Zero Waste Wednesdays and Buy Recycled Fridays. So people can know and come back and see those kind of items all the time. Another thing we've done is we've updated our just the basics on the curbside recycling. This flyer has been particularly effective in talking directly to people in the community, and we've gotten some good feedback on that. And then the more broader thing we're doing is the OOPS tag program. This is based on a program that was developed by the Recycling Partnership, which is a national organization that is working towards improving curbside recycling. Our tag is specific for our community. And so what we do is we go out in teams, we actually hit the street, we look at what exactly is going on in that bin. We'll check the boxes, we'll circle the things as necessary, and we actually take the material that is non-compliant, we put it in a paper bag and leave it there for the resident to see when they come home. And then, of course, the flip side has got the stuff we need, or the stuff we take. And then for people that do it just right, we do something rare. We compliment a neighbor on what they're doing. So we thank them for recycling correctly, and we leave that door hanger at the door. So this has been a real good program. It's a good way to get out and actually meet people in the street as they're leaving for work, and give some back and forth with the community. And it's been pretty successful in other communities. We've done a couple test pilots. We're next going to hit the community around UF, so they don't get too far into bad habits over there where they're renting. So we're excited about that program. So far it's been going pretty good. So I just want to let you guys know about those. If you got any questions, let me know.
Commissioner Sacco.
Just as a question, you said not get into bad habits if they're renting. Are you targeting non-homesteaded properties, or are you just doing whole neighborhoods?
Yeah, this is right. It's single family. So yeah, that's probably just going to be the next area we'll do. The goal is to hit, the whole city eventually, and just keep moving forward and work in the neighborhoods.
Okay. There's no way to do this with the commercial recyclers, right?
There is. I mean, we do have inspectors that do go out from time to time to check on commercial recycling, and it is certainly something that we can phase in, especially if we start to make some changes to the commercial recycling ordinance.
Well, I'm saying because I have commercial recycling. I have commercial just trash in general.
Yeah.
Did not know I could recycle my junk mail. I thought I could. I wasn't 100% sure. I have a pile of junk mail that I'm trying to figure out what to do with, but now I know I can recycle it. So it'd be useful information to kind of get out, even if it's like through home associations to larger ones, to just kind of pass that out, because I know they'll put up signs like, please don't put paper in this one, it's only for plastic, and it does very little. But if you could pass it along with either home management services or HOAs that have larger populations, be like, here's the acceptable recycling part, I think would do a lot of good.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. We need to start developing our HOA contact list a little better.
And even, it doesn't have to be HOAs, because my HOA is managed by a company.
Yeah.
So the management companies themselves might have a larger clientele that makes it easier than going through HOAs.
No, that's good feedback. Thanks.
Yeah, just have them go do the work of dropping it off.
Exactly.
And
They
I
send
know
me enough mail.
in other cities, they have had kind of volunteers from the community have helped with these initiatives of actually dropping it off. So it's not just on city employees. So that might be something I know there's people in the community who want to do stuff on this. So this might be something to reach out to Zero Waste Gainesville or some other organization, Keep Alachua County Beautiful, other ones, and they may be able to help kind of drop these off on more places. But I think they look great.
I'll do it.
Yeah, there you go. The one thing about
you signed up.
Yeah, Commissioner Saki, you mentioned on the commercial and kind of multi-family stuff. The one issue there is every place does different recycling. So that's why hopefully we can pass that ordinance, because right now there's no standardization.
But I think we have the bulk of them is done by that one company, right? By CW.
Yeah, WCA, and they take it to the county MRF. So you are right. A lot of people might not know that they can include their junk mail, for example.
But I think, if we can do at least WCA, I got most of the letters in there. If we can get, I'm not good with letters or acronyms.
It's okay. It's changing soon. So
great. If we could look at, they're the majority provider of that service. Where do they go? What do they accept? Because mine is still divided into paper and plastic and metal on one side and then paper on the other. It would be fairly useful to know, like, generally this is recyclable, this isn't. Because I think that this isn't is very, very helpful.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good stuff. And like you said, they're the primary hauler, so I think we can work with them to do some stuff.
Any other discussion on this item?
Is my mic on?
No. We can hear you now.
Okay. For example,
sharing your screen, Mr. Himbach? Maybe that's why I wasn't able to see.
For example, cartons, for example, we take curbside, but many of the commercial haulers don't take cartons. So the program does vary a little bit between commercial and residential. So, I wouldn't want to distribute out, the residential flyer to some commercial properties if they didn't take that exact same material. And that's part of the issue we're having that we'll discuss more next time as well.
And just to be clear, because I think I've been doing this wrong. Those like milk carton things, they go in the blue container, correct? Not the orange one? Okay.
Correct.
I was doing it.
They're desired for their paper, but they get sorted like containers.
Okay.
Why?
Because they act more like a container than they do paper when they get processed.
Have you seen they walk around and stuff like that in the commercials?
Oh, is it because they have to be rinsed out, I'm assuming, and paper doesn't? Or
no, paper, when the processing goes, they use it's called star screens and other things, and paper tends to float or go a different direction because it's loose. Whereas cartons act more like an empty plastic bottle, for example, and it gets processed more like that with the machinery.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no other discussion on this topic from the committee, I'd like to open it up for public comment.
Okay, there is no more. I still do not have anyone called in on the attendees list for public comment, but we could wait a moment if you are watching from home and you would like to call in, the number is on your screen with the meeting ID, and then just dial *9. Okay, I am not seeing anyone call in for public comment.
All right, we'll move on to the next item. Next meeting date is November 10th at 2 p.m. and we will be discussing mainly two things. The staff, or the recommendations coming back from our discussion a couple weeks ago on food waste and organics. And then also a new topic of commercial and multifamily solid waste and recycling. Any questions on that? All right, any other discussion items that want to be brought up? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thanks a lot.